Trump was mistaken in believing that Brussels would stand idly by, accepting tariff increases and exclusion from discussions on the Ukraine and Gaza conflicts, while he trampled over his historical ally. Europe was quietly preparing its sweet revenge, which is just beginning. As its first major move, the European Union will block imports of U.S. food products that do not meet its standards to protect its farmers, following Trump's reciprocal trade policy, an eye for an eye. Economists warn that a trade war between these two global actors could significantly impact the global market. Europe is poised to strike in what appears to be the first major blow to the already struggling U.S. economy. The EU is preparing to ban imports of American food products that do not comply with its standards. This move, aimed at protecting European farmers, is considered a direct retaliation against Trump's actions and serves as a reminder that unilateral decisions can have severe consequences on the global stage. According to anonymous sources, the European Commission is considering stricter import limits, particularly affecting key products such as soybeans grown in the U.S. using pesticides banned in Europe. This decision highlights the growing tensions between both sides of the Atlantic, where Trump has intensified his rhetoric on fair and reciprocal trade. As Trump moves to protect American farmers with tariffs, Europe responds in kind, drawing a striking parallel to the eye for an eye approach. Trump recently announced the imposition of reciprocal tariffs on U.S. trade partners, matching the tariff rates applied by each country to Washington, claiming that the measure would benefit American farmers. When asked about the possibility of the EU banning certain American food imports, Trump responded with his characteristic arrogance. "That's fine, I don't care. Let them do it. We have reciprocal tariffs. Whatever they charge, we'll charge them back. It's very simple." Meanwhile, Ursula von der Leyen assured that U.S. tariffs would not go unanswered and that the EU would take firm and proportional measures. Tensions between these historical allies escalated after the U.S. decided to impose a 25% tariff on steel and aluminum starting March 12th, along with reciprocal tariffs in April and separate tariffs on vehicles, pharmaceuticals, and semiconductor chips. If Trump imposes tariffs on European goods, their prices will rise, leading to decreased demand. Conversely, if the Eurozone responds with reciprocal tariffs, American products will also become more expensive for European consumers. Additionally, if Trump imposes tariffs on other countries, they could easily redirect their products to the European market, increasing competition for European businesses. Given the interconnected nature of the global economy, these measures could also disrupt supply chains, making it more difficult for European companies to obtain essential products at reasonable prices. The uncertainty surrounding tariffs and their effects raises concerns among businesses, potentially delaying investments and even impacting economic growth. However, amidst the chaos triggered by Trump's tariffs, these measures could encourage other countries to strengthen trade ties with Europe as a counterbalance to Washington's tariff policy. By imposing tariffs, the U.S. could experience a boomerang effect, ultimately harming its own citizens by increasing costs for businesses and fueling inflation. Inflation surged to 3% earlier this year, reducing the likelihood of the Federal Reserve cutting interest rates in the short term. As inflation accelerates in the U.S., the Federal Reserve faces a dilemma, whether to lower interest rates to stimulate growth or keep them high to control inflation, which is at risk of spiraling out of control due in part to Trump's tariff policies. In the current context, a significant increase in tariffs could create even greater inflationary pressure, further complicating the already fragile economic situation in the U.S. Observers argue that Trump's arrogance ignores the lessons of history. Protectionist policies have led to devastating consequences before, as seen during the Great Depression when President Herbert Hoover implemented the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act in 1930. This policy, intended to protect the U.S. economy, triggered a chain reaction of trade retaliation, worsening the economic crisis to unimaginable levels. History seems to be repeating itself, with Trump potentially reviving Hoover's mistakes. Like his predecessor, who sought to protect U.S. industry through tariffs, Trump appears to ignore the fact that such measures generate economic instability both nationally and internationally. The EU has stated that if an agreement with the U.S. to avoid tariffs cannot be reached, it has several tools to protect itself, such as implementing countermeasures, appealing to the World Trade Organization, and utilizing its anti-coercion instrument. In recent years, the European Commission has adopted legislation allowing it to respond to economic pressures from third countries. Although the primary goal of this legislation is deterrence and conflict resolution, as a last resort, it could be activated to impose restrictions. The United States is the EU's largest trading partner for goods exports and the second largest for imports. In 2023, according to Eurostat, the Eurozone had a trade surplus of 157 billion euros in goods with Washington. In 2022, the Eurozone was the second largest trade partner for U.S. goods exports and the largest for imports. Similarly, the U.S. was Europe's top trade partner in services exports and imports in 2023. A year earlier, Europe had a 109 billion euro deficit in services with its now rival. This context not only reinforces the economic interdependence between both regions, but also underscores the need for a more collaborative approach rather than a confrontational one. Reciprocal tariffs, far from being a solution, could exacerbate economic problems and lead to an even greater decline in economic growth. The growing trade tensions between the U.S. and the EU highlight the risks of protectionist policies and unilateral decision-making. As both sides retaliate with tariffs, economic uncertainty increases, potentially harming businesses, consumers, and overall economic stability. Cooperation, rather than confrontation, may be the key to long-term prosperity. Want to know more about how this trade war could impact global markets and your daily life? Watch our in-depth analysis on YouTube. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more updates.